sounded good, I think. We're gonna call our meeting to order. It is 5:30. And I need a motion to approve the agenda for the board workshop meeting.
So moved.
Brian?
Second.
Lisa? All in favor? Aye, 7-0. And we have one topic for tonight, and I'm going to actually hand it over to Mr. Provenzano, but excited to hear updates and information.
Yes, updates and information on our curriculum. We have representatives from world languages and science. We're going to start out, I believe, with our world language friends, Kevin and Deb. Yep. It's ready.
Mm-hmm.
Should be locked and loaded. Come on up. I'll let you
Don't leave him hanging.
introduce your great team, Kevin.
And if it's green, you should be good to go. And you don't have to hold it super close. If you put it in the middle, it's beautiful.
Oh, there we are.
There's the mic.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, awesome. Okay.
All right.
And then,
Stretch
here's the clicker. Is that the clicker?
That way it's
Thank
not
you
a
so
power.
much. I appreciate it. All right. All right. This? Thank you, sir. All right. Okay. Now that I got the tech right. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for inviting us this evening to share with you some of the updates. We're going to give you a real overview in a succinct way of what has happened in our department. And I'm really, really honored to have with me tonight two of our educators and lead educators, both, and they wear many hats beyond that as well. I have Deb Buckley with me, who teaches German. She also is certified in French and has done that in the past. And she is one of our lead educators at one of the middle schools, okay, officially at JP, all right. And then I have Linnell Vandenberg, who teaches French at the high school. In addition to that, she is our lead educator, and she is also our Seal of Biliteracy coordinator. So we are really, really happy to have both of them here tonight, and they're going to be speaking and taking some charge in some of this as well. So just to let you know, what we're going to try to accomplish in a very short amount of time is to talk a little bit about our current program offerings and what is happening with our New York State standards and our journey with that, which has been an interesting one, and the additional programs that we do offer here in Fairport. All right? So just to give you a lay of the land, we currently have 18 full-time educators in our department. Now, when you probably went through your formal schooling, it might have been called foreign language education at the time. Then it became passé, and it was then called LOTE at one point, languages other than English. And as of late, we are now considered world languages. So just to get the politically correct terms out there so that you know, that's why this has morphed through time. But we are proud to have, as I said, 18 full-time educators currently in the department, as well as 4 lead educators, 2 at the middle school and 2 at the high school, right? And that's for grade 7 through 12. And here are the current program offerings. So just to give you a real quick overview of what that means, students in New York State are required to take at least 1 full credit to obtain a Regents diploma. And what that means really at this point would be completing language 1A and 1B at least at the middle school level. Is the ideal time is when the starting happens. Sometimes students do delay for whatever reason because of their schedules and because of their needs until the high school or beyond, right? And then students currently who would like to go on for a Regents diploma with distinction need to obtain 2 additional credits. So that would be what you see as checkpoint B, which would be levels 2 and 3, typically 9th and 10th grade, all right? And again, you see there for each of the languages, what we offer starting from 7th grade all the way up. So students in all 3 languages, in French, German, and Spanish, can indeed take advantage of language starting in 7th grade all the way up to senior year if they so choose to do. Standards. I won't read this, but what happened was back in, I believe it was 1986, was the original kind of big push for our foreign language standards. And then things were quiet, and there was an update at one point in the 90s, all right, a very small update. And then things just didn't happen for quite a long time. And it wasn't until, and that was a negative because I myself was a foreign language teacher, a world languages teacher for 15 years in there before I came to administration. And it was just fascinating how you just kind of plodded along and did what you did, and you were thinking something's going to happen eventually. Well, lo and behold, in March 2021, they have decided in New York State that we were going to do some updated standards, which is going to focus in a lot on communication. It doesn't mean that culture and comparisons, which are a part of it, didn't mean anything, but communication was going to be a big key. And really starting to think of how do we train our students to be global citizens, and to do that knowing that they're not necessarily going to leave being grammarians in the language, or that they're going to be able to write wonderfully expository things. Yes, that's expected of them, and that's part of it, and that's not that we shouldn't have that rigor, but a big part of that is how are you communicating? And how can you do that with students or with people of another world and another culture? So lo and behold, we have the standards that do cover communication, culture, connections, comparisons, and competence that are still part of this world. And what that looks like is you will see that there are what we call anchor standards. We have a communication anchor standards with 3, we'll call substandards below that. And then we have a culture standard, which relates to cultural practices and competencies. That said, for many of you, and this is where the big shift occurs with that, and this is the interesting part, you may have, when you went through your formal language education, did what I call the silo or boilerplate effect, where you might have done a unit on family, and you were given 70 words on family members, right? And you spent all this time on it, right? And then you did it, and then approximately 3 months later, your teacher would come in one day and would bring family members in again, and you couldn't remember necessarily, and they would say to you, we covered this. We spent 10 weeks on it. Why don't you remember it, right? And they found that through time and through studies and so on and so forth, that there really needed to be more of a scaffolding kind of an interweave effect going on, an interplay with language in order for it to stick. So what used to be 15, I think it was, discrete topics and very specific things, now has gone to 4 major themes, okay? And then there are subtopics under those themes. And the goal is to scaffold and bring those back in through the different levels. And that's not something just common to languages anymore. Even some sciences are doing that and other curricular areas as well. So what it looks like, for those of you who are visual kinds of people, all right? Oh, okay, good. Is that, for example, I can't take credit for it. I wish I could. But the department, they like when I say to them, I bring this up, they like roll their eyes at me because they see it all the time, and I'm the visual guy. So, for example, pretend that the red there up there is an identity and relationship or personal identity unit. The goal there is to use that, and then underneath it, maybe start to bring in some things having to do with family members, but not all family members. Maybe it's relevant to that time period of what you do on the weekends, right? And weekend activities. So you bring in weekend activities, which would be another color under there, for example, right? And then later on, when you see red again in personal identity later, it comes up to be things that you are doing as cultural things, right? And you bring in what you do maybe with your family as traditions. So you bring family members in there again and scaffold off of that, all right? And the other goal there too is regarding culture is to make sure it's not one of those kinds of things that you do at the end of the unit and you throw it in there for 2 days and watch a cute movie and talk about it and then you're done with it. It's to bring a thread throughout the entire chapter and entire unit that you're working on. All right? So what that means as far as the department is concerned, again, I'm the visual guy, is that the Department of Ed said that by 2023, we had to have the beginning cohort of students start with these new standards, all right? And then you'll see kind of the blue moving down as to, by is it 2028, 29, is when we have to have everything fully in place. So it's a gradual effect. So as far as curriculum and writing is concerned, What you see in gray is how we sort of tackled that whole scenario. And what we did was we began back in 2020, actually back in 2021, 22, to just start to unpack the standards and look at them. We started doing some professional learning around that. The New York State Department of Ed did a wonderful series of different webinars and things that you could either do live or people could watch after the fact and learn about some of this at their own pace. So we tried to incrementally do that. And then we started obviously tackling our first level. So in 2023-24, our 7th grade students at the time, that first cohort, were the ones that started, all right? And this year, it moved up to our 8th grade students. So that didn't mean that we were done with our 7th grade work. In fact, this year, we have some of our educators that are going back and revisiting some of the work that was done last year because, as you know, the best laid plans you put on paper, you try it out, and then it doesn't quite work the way you think. So we have to tweak and modify some things along the way. So we've had some ongoing things. We've utilized our conference days, superintendent conference days. We've utilized curriculum writing time. We've used department writing time to tackle a lot of these issues. So we are happy, and I'm proud to say that this has been an evolving scenario that did involve some, along the way, questioning, frustration, because when you introduce new things, sometimes you feel like, oh my gosh, what was it? Was it what I was doing wrong? And it wasn't that. We found out that a lot of what we were doing was right. It just needed to be tweaked and looked at a different way and modified. So, yes.
Can I just ask, what did it look like for kids that would have started in like their freshman year? The ones that were delayed, would have been delayed? Did they get the updated version or did they get what was already in place before?
Yep, so if you look at the one, do you see where the 2 blocks are? It's like the 20, 25, 26, that area. That's where we'll hit those students. So next year, so this year, in fact, those level 1, the ones that are delaying, and level 2 educators are working on the curriculum this year. So it will affect them next year. Yeah, great question. All right. So that said, I'm now going to turn this over to, I think, Deb first, because we're going to talk about some of the other things that we offer here that are gems in our department that I hope that you're aware of, but if not, hopefully you'll walk away and say that, that those are some really great things that we're doing. And we're going to talk a little bit about our language lab, as well as Sub-SUNY credit AP, and our Seal of Life biliteracy, and our National Honor Society. So Deb, I'm going to turn it over to you to talk about the language
All
lab a
right.
little bit.
What is language lab? So I teach in the middle school, and we feel like we get all the kids. We get all the kids, and some kids are really ripe for learning foreign languages, and some kids have a lot of other needs. But it's so important to get them their credit, their mandated credit in middle school. That way, when they get to 9th grade, they can take other electives, right? Maybe they're just, okay, I'm done with language. I don't want to do language anymore. So they can take some other electives. So we asked you guys and Kevin and said, can we come up with a way to remediate these kids so that we can get them the credit they need to graduate and be done with language if they're not a language kid. Like some kids are totally language kids and will go all the way to senior year, but other kids, they just need that credit, right? So about 4 years ago, we developed a language lab where we take kids who are just having a hard time. And sometimes they just need a place to get their homework done. And sometimes they just need an adult to run flashcards with them. And sometimes they need to be kind of retaught basic grammar things, things that we take for granted, like what's a noun, what's a verb, how do you, things like that. So we have this program, it goes every other day. The kids get pulled out of lunch or study halls, and they come in with their lunch, if they're during lunch, and they just get the remediation. They just get an extra boost up. We've seen that it gets them in a better attitude for foreign language. It makes them a little more successful, and best, we can get them the credit that they need in order to get that credit. Some will go on to the number 2 level, French 2, Spanish 2, German 2, but some will just say, okay, I passed my exam, I'm good, I'm gonna go take small gas engines now. But that's like meeting the kids where they're at. So that's been a really great program. We have it in both middle schools. I did it for a couple of years. Now Tulsi's doing it at JP. Lonnie Malaber's doing it at Martha Brown.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, please, please, please.
Yeah, so I know sometimes there's kids that can test out of taking a foreign language for a variety of
Right.
reasons, mainly if they have an IEP or
Yeah.
such. Have you been able to maybe capture kids that would have perhaps not would have tested out before through adding an additional language lab?
Getting the testing out kids is really, it's really difficult for them to test out. It's not an easy, like, it's not an easy process. The kid, like, we probably, I'm just guessing, we probably have 99% of the kids in our classes. Some kids are delayed because of social emotional issues, and some kids are delayed because they don't, when they do the tests to test out, they do well enough on those, but they still struggle. Um, we have had kids who've officially on their IEP said they're exempt from foreign language, and we've had kids who are like, no, I want to give it a try, and they try, and they do well. You know, that's kind of a parent discussion that we've had with parents. Like the parents will say, I want my kid to try, and they do. And I've like in German, I've had some kids who've really been successful and gone on into high school, but on their IEPs it said they were exempt. Yeah. No, I'm sure it would. But all those things, any little support that these kids get is so beneficial to them. And yeah. Any other questions? Awesome. Then on
I
to
think Linnell.
Lynette.
Yeah.
On to Linnell.
Yeah, so I thought I'd start by sharing the impetus of how we decided to be aligned with SUNY. When I came over as lead teacher, I had actually spent a couple years at the middle school, and then I saw these same kids up, and I started realizing this is a graph of enrollment from like 7th grade, the same students over 3 years. We tracked students, and you could see kids are, if you look at like 1B, that's 8th grade, and then 9th grade, 10th, 11th, 12th, you could see the graph like went way down, and it seemed like kids were just dropping like flies. And I think it's up there, it was like 7% of students actually went on to take the AP exam. So I was interested in trying to change the culture, and so more students could feel that, yes, I can absolutely do college level classes in French, German, and Spanish. So that was like a really big goal of mine. So when we looked at doing dual credit, we looked at what Fairport offered already, which was we had MCC, but that level was too low for our juniors and seniors. And then we had Syracuse University, which looked really good, except that it was double the cost. We were mindful of the cost. Students on reduced lunch, it's $87 with SUNY, which we love. So it was double the cost, and we had to use the Syracuse University textbook, and that didn't align with our AP. So we ended up with SUNY Oswego for a couple of reasons. One of them was they aligned with AP. Another one was they were one of the few universities at the time that actually offered French, German, and Spanish. So we only were going to align ourselves with a university that had all 3 languages. And so if you look up, you can see I just put enrollment for the last couple of years. You can see the number of students for each year that have enrolled, and it just keeps growing each year. This year we have 121 combined. These are students typically that will not take the AP, but they are doing college level work. They can have 3 credits for their junior year and 3 credits for their senior year. So it's really worked out well. We're really, it's been nice. They used to come out and actually observe us. All our level 4 and 5 teachers are technically adjuncts through SUNY. We had to be approved as adjuncts. They would come out and observe us. We have to send our curriculum in. They have to approve it. And what's nice about it is all students that go to SUNY schools, which is the majority at the time, it was 46% of our students would end up in SUNY schools. They're guaranteed this credit because it's the SUNY transcript. So it's worked well. I think it'll align well with the new standards coming that we'll be looking at dual credit courses. Advanced placement offerings, I wanted to share this as well too. You can see the number of students enrolled that do take the AP option. It's really rigorous. We're really proud that we've maintained this in all 3 languages all these years. You can see kind of the mean scores I averaged the last couple years. Typically Spanish, they have a standalone AP. They tend to score the highest. French and German are usually about there each year. But I'm just really proud of the number of students that 52 will take that challenge to take the AP, 54 the next year. So we have a really nice solid group of kids that want that challenge. And typically, like I said, the students that end up doing the AP exam, they typically don't do the SUNY credit because you can't get double credit. But our goal is to have, if you saw like the smorgasbord of the nice food offering, is to be able to say to kids, hey, if you want to do SUNY credit, great. If you want AP, great. And now we have a third option, which is SELA biliteracy. So we've really been able to, I think, reach more kids with our programs. So yes, please go ahead.
So is there a difference between in senior year, a SUNY option and an AP option? Can you choose
No,
which one?
yes.
Or can you only do AP? I don't.
This is the beauty. This is the beauty. Yes. So this is the beauty of SUNY. So, and it was a lot of work actually trying to, that graph. I realized it was like a 30-page PowerPoint that I tried to get SUNY aligned with us. We're the only one in Monroe County, by the way, are accredited with SUNY for a 4-year university. So students have the option in any of our courses for honors, AP. For Spanish, we have a standalone non-AP track. It doesn't matter. Any student enrolled as a junior or senior has the option of taking the SUNY credit. It's French 201, Spanish 201, German 201 your junior year. So what we find is most of the kids that do Spanish cultural and comparison, it's the non-AP senior year, they eat this up because they're doing college work and they should get that credit. But they don't want the stress of the AP, or they feel, oh, that's just not for me. So we're seeing, I'd say, just anecdotally, about double the students in Spanish now going on to their senior year, which is remarkable. It really is. How do I hit on my link there? I don't know. Is there a way to click on the SELA biliteracy?
Yes, if somebody could power that. Yeah.
I just don't, yeah.
Thank you.
So, and then to add to our smorgasbord here. Okay, so this is a huge, huge point of pride. I'm retiring soon, and this has just been a gift. I'm so, so thankful that the district has supported the SELA biliteracy. So I'd like to just talk about this a little bit, and I can even hopefully share a sample or two what this looks like. So we're in our 3rd year, and there's basically 3 cohorts of students that can be SELA biliteracy students. We have our students that are enrolled, right, up through their senior year in a world language. We have our students that are ELL students that are getting ELL support, and we have our students that have been floating around there that no one knows they have another language that are out there that maybe aren't in ELL, or maybe they're not in a French, Spanish, or German, but they still have a second language at home. So School Tool has been really helpful in that regard because I'm able to identify these students that just have slipped through the cracks a little bit, and to walk in and say, hey, you've got a superpower, you speak blank. Are you interested in being a SELA biliteracy student? So it's incredible. We've had a huge, huge, huge interest on the part of the students. So that's last year's graduating class. So what is it? It's a stamp that goes on your diploma. For our ELL students, it's a level of intermediate mid, typically. And then for our world language students in French, German, Spanish, it's intermediate high. And that's the intent. Basically affirm the value of diversity, recognize these students. It's something they can put on their resume. Once you have the seal, you have a seal. The New York State is saying, yes, you have a level of mastery in a second language. So this is this is what the students see when we look at proficiency. So as native speakers, we'd be at the top of that cone, and you can see intermediate, mid, intermediate, high. Everything is standards-based. So one of the challenges when we started to implement this program is how do we evaluate a student in all these different languages. So for our French, German, and Spanish students, I actually recorded like almost every presentation, and we had to norm between languages. When we created what the program would be, the schools have a lot of flexibility. We all collaborated. It was really another high point for me in my career because we have elements from AP German, AP French, Spanish culture comparison, and English, and also our ELL courses that we all collaborated for to create the project that the students would do. So there's different skills, but basically with students that become candidates, they're assigned a mentor. This person walks them through the process, and we typically meet with students at least twice, so they get like 2 hours of sort of one-on-one tutoring with us. There's different elements to it. I know I'm running short on time, but I'd like to just share an example or two so you can see. But for our ELL students, the first thing they do, and they'll be doing this next month, they take an online assessment. There's different assessments that they do. After their online assessments, if they've scored proficiency level, they move to the project. This is an example of a project presentation. I don't know if someone can just click on it for a second, just get a feel.
我爸爸是姓 Loomis 的，然后 Annie 是我自己挑的，所以我的名字是 Annie Loomis， 但是李安也是我妈妈给我取的。OK， 所以嘛，我今天要给你们讲一下二胡的。
So, and you can go ahead to the next slide. Thank you. So what happens is students come in, we have interpreters. This is Rizan, so that's the interpreter. So it's also, we connect with people in Rochester. So they're laughing about a recipe because during his presentation, students can either talk about themselves, which is one of the AP themes, the quest of oneself, or they can do research or they can do a combination. So he did a lot on cooking, and so she came up, the interpreter, and we bring interpreters in, and they're laughing about a recipe, like, oh my gosh, I want to see that recipe. When the students present, it's their time, we're honoring them. They can have whoever they want. We've had grandparents, we've had parents, we've had siblings, we've had teachers, counselors, administrators. It's totally up to them. Our goal is to honor them as learners, honor their interests when they present. This is kind of the vibe. You'll see Kevin here, if you could click it. And they present. There.
Whenever you're ready.
We have there's a translator sitting there.
Nice group here. Yes.
When if you just nod at me, I will do my best.
Going forward. And then we put the score in.
Ready? Përshëndetje. Mirë se vini dhe faleminderit që ardhët në prezantimin tim. Ky prezantim ka të bëjë me biografinë time. Unë
Most
quhem
of the
Rozan
presentations last
Jam
about 20
lidur në
minutes.
Nisni Korrek
And
në
then
2005 në
there's
Prishtinë,
panelists,
kryeqytetit të
and we
Kosovës.
ask questions of them that they don't know they're going to be asked.
Jeta e
And then
hershme
we're
dhe
evaluating
fëmijëri.
how well can they respond.
Unë kam jetuar në
spontaneously.
Kosovë për 5
So
vjet.
the academic presentational side, most of the students end up doing research. And so they have to have like sources that we approve, and then they present, and then, so there's 3 different skills that we are assessing. So Camille, so we have students, so she was one that was a little hidden. She's a native French speaker, I had no idea, and I teach French, you know. We have students that are double earners, so she happened to earn it in French and Spanish. And you can see Dimitri bringing his parents in. And then there's one more thing I wanted to share with you. This right here, so for all of our students for their junior and senior year, we actually put into our junior year the first part of the seal of biliteracy, and then the second, which is who am I? And then the second part is their independent research topic. So I just want to share, this is the first year. These kids were instrumental in getting this program running. They pick a research topic of their choice, and then they present. If you look at the topics that they pick, this is what you'll see when we say like we're honoring our students and their interests. So Liliana, like she would wasn't happy with the response to COVID, so she wanted to see how did France handle that. Aaron, he was a great jazz musician, right? So he's like, hey, I want to look at the history of jazz. Elise, she did a lot of work too for the seal. Lily's parents are in a band, so she wanted to do the history of rap in French. Amelia she's a writer, reader. She made a connection between, Chloe, she's vegetarian. She said, everyone asked me, why are you vegetarian? So she researched why to be vegetarian. Cole Gould, incredible. He researched how to attend a French university, now he's in Ireland because he went on the Irish trip. Animal rights, so Emma, she works at Stony Brook, where, she worked at a veterinarian's place. So the kids pick something that they want to do, and then we, as mentors, we're their research assistants. We approve of their sources, and then they present. Vivian, too, she went on the Ireland trip. She was interested in comparing how schools are different between Ireland, France, and US. So anyway, I will stop, but that's the seal. And it's incredible. So thank you for supporting it. And thank you for supporting our world language programming and our kids. And because they're awesome and we love them and we do what we can to, yeah, I don't know how to get out of this. So it's a point system, basically. It's like points. There's an English element to the seal. So if a student, which most students, if they haven't taken the AP language exam and earned a 3 or higher, they have to do an English component, or if they, this is nice, this is our celebration right for graduation. They also have, if they haven't scored 85 or higher in their English course, regardless of which class they're in, they have to do an extra project for the English portion. So it's pretty comprehensive, and the kids that are getting it, they've got it. It's kind of like it's like a 2.5 on an AP. That's like the level that we're looking for. So, and we had another district that is going to be observed by the state, and they reached out to us to ask for everything we do because they thought maybe what they were doing wasn't enough. And so everything was sent to them, and now they're doing what we do. So yay, Fairport. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Your passion is exciting too.
So, and just as a quick caveat to that, it really does, as far as inclusion and equity are concerned, it opens the playing field to every single student. And I wish, I really do, that you could be there, because for the students that may excel in another language and we don't know about it and we find out about it, when they're giving those presentations and they invite those family members, like we've had family members in tears, or just like the pride. And this is something that's nationally recognized by all states. And it doesn't matter whether you choose to go on to college, the military, the working world after directly, you can use this as a piece on your resume, on your applications, et cetera. We've had school districts who, for example, have talked about how their students work in different environments, and they'll wear a pin that says they're a Seal of Biliteracy member with the language attached to it. And they said, you don't, like, for example, one was Wegmans, like they had some students in the state. And so now there are particular clients or shoppers who will go to that line particularly because they know that there's a connection language-wise and that they can get through and they can culturally connect with students as well. So it really is a wonderful program. We're blessed to have it, and we really appreciate all of that support. So, yeah.
I just went to the last slide. You can see the number of students. This will go down. Not every student will probably earn it, and I think we have about 2/3 of the students actually go through the entire program and earn the credit. But look at the languages represented, right? So currently we have about 76 students that are pursuing it.
And they would start their junior year on it?
Yes, we started our junior year for all our English, also our German, French, and Spanish students. We put it into the curriculum,
Okay.
the first half. And then for the ELL students, like the Polish student, they can take the online assessment their junior year if they want to, but mostly they do it their senior year.
Okay, so I have a couple
Yeah.
of kids, when I went to open house,
Yeah.
I talked to their teachers about it, but they're all sophomores, so.
No, yeah, it's definitely,
okay.
it's a checkpoint C, which
Yeah.
is New York State. It's the junior and senior year, 100%.
So
Yeah.
hopefully they're on the radar now.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, our time is up. We thank you so much. Unless there's other quick questions, or I know we have our
Kevin,
esteemed colleague here that
Yeah.
needs to present still. Yeah.
Kevin, I just have a quick question.
Yeah.
Does New York State, and I hate to ask this, do they recognize sign language as a language, and can you get seal by literacy if?
I believe so, yes. The answer to that is. Now, interestingly, just as a quick aside, I know people have talked about why don't we offer it, why can't we offer it? It's very interesting and very intricate. There are just a few districts in the county that offer it. And you would think that because we are in such a rich environment, that it would be very prevalent, and with RIT and the NTID in existence. But what NTID is cultivating are interpreters, not educators and teachers. And so it gets interesting in that realm, not only with that, but also when you hire somebody who is truly, they're non-hearing, they're deaf, then you also have to hire an interpreter for them or a relief for them as well. But we have a student that goes back to like something that you're saying, for example, who was not able to start language formally in 7th grade because of their identified needs in their IEP. And their parents did not want to seek a waiver for them. They came to me and said, we want our son to try language. And oh, by the way, we want to do it ASL, and we're going to do it in 9th grade, and you need to figure it out. How is it going to happen? So that's where the research came about. And this student is in level 2, completing it online through a New York State approved program. They chose to do an asynchronous route where they're going on daily during an assigned time to do it, and doing assignments and that sort of thing. So we have a trailblazer that's going through it right now, so that it's not off the table in the future for other students who, for whatever reasons, that might be the appropriate route for them.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking of students who use American Sign Language with their parents at home.
Yep.
Would they be able, would that qualify as seal of biliteracy?
I believe so, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
That's
We
great.
would just have to go through the channels of somebody to rate them and make sure that they're proficient. And then, like we said, when they do their presentations, that we have somebody there that can rate them.
That's really
Interpret,
wonderful.
yeah, absolutely.
It's very inclusive.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Seal by
absolutely.
I had a feeling.
Yeah.
No, that's great.
Great. Well, again, thank you so much. We appreciate your time and
No,
all of your
Deb, thank you,
support
Kevin.
along the way.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
For coming tonight, we appreciate it.
And as they leave, we will transition to Stacy and Adria.
Well, I would just say, echo the same about that program. I have a daughter who is absolutely in love with her world language of Spanish, making her way all the way through. And I think it's a true testament to not only like the department and the opportunities, but also the staff, the teachers. They are at the heart of that. They help the kids fall in love with the language. And so that's been hugely impactful. So just a little plug on a personal note. I'm so proud to say that my daughter loves Spanish. Similar to the world language, science has been very busy with a bunch of standards that have been changing for quite some time now. So Andrea and I, and I'll let Andrea introduce herself as well. Andrea and I are going to talk to you about all of the things that are happening with K-12 science education. We're going to talk about how the standards are evolving and changing, and we have a similar timeline that we will be at full implementation about the year of 2028, which is actually, this is just coming through very fast. So we'll talk to you about that. We'll talk about the elementary programming. We'll talk about middle school programming and where we're at with high school programming. So I will let Andrea do an introduction. She is my partner in all of this work. So go ahead if you'd like.
I'm Andrea Costanza. I'm the STEM instructional coach for the district. I taught earth science for 18 years at Minerva DeLand before doing this. So I've been spending the last number of years really diving deep into these new standards, and I'll just tell you a little bit about how they're different. If we want to go to the next.
Yeah, we'll use the clicker. Here we go.
So we're going to start off with the next generation science learning standards versus NISLIS. So NGSS stands for Next Generation Science Standards, and that is a national program of science standards. NISLIS is the New York State version of those, which is essentially the same, but New York State, in true fashion, has just added a few to what the NGSS already has. So there are 3 different dimensions of the framework: practices, the core ideas, and the cross-cutting concepts. Now, previously, our science content has just been the DCIs, the disciplinary core ideas. So when a teacher goes to teach earth science or biology, we have this list of factual information that we explain and students hopefully understand. There are two new facets, though, with the next generation science standards, and that is the science and engineering practices, which is what scientists do, and then there are the cross-cutting concepts, which is how scientists think. So in addition to every topic or idea of science, students are also going to have to do one of the practices and one of the cross-cutting concepts with that standard. And you can see on the outside, the green circle, the cross-cutting concepts. Those are things like noticing patterns within data, or cause and effect, scale, proportion, and quantity. And you can read the rest of those. But it's how do we connect the content to real life and other topics? And then the science and engineering practices is what scientists do. So we're teaching students how to be scientists. And what that does is instead of the traditional science learning where the teacher is the wealth of knowledge and they impart their knowledge to the students, now the students are being tasked with figuring things out on their own, and the teacher is more of a facilitator.
And so you can see that this change obviously forced us as a department to have to make some instructional changes and a little bit of philosophical and pedagogical changes. So over time, we've started, this was pre me coming into this role, started to use FOSS science kits and mystery science. And I'm sure a lot of you have kids that have gone through elementary school and used mystery science. But mystery science is kind of in that phenomenon-based, very turnkey. So we know our elementary teachers have a lot of hats to wear throughout the day, right? So we wanted a curriculum that was extremely engaging, got at the kids being the scientists, doing and feeling what it's like to explore and test out hypotheses and kind of come up with their understanding. So the mystery science curriculum seemed to be a perfect turnkey program for us K-5. And you know, we embed and we add more, and we're trying to add more writing and all as it evolves. But this is kind of what our framework is for what we do for elementary science. You can see this, we kind of course, it's always good to see what kids are doing, right? So I tasked Andrea to go into the classroom and let's get some clips so that the board and Mr. Provenzano can see what we're doing. Oh, okay. So, oh shoot.
Yeah, it does.
Okay. Well, we'll give you access. We'll make sure we have access. Go in and then we'll change that. But basically, if you want to explain kind of what the challenge was and how the kids were in action.
Yeah. So the way the NGSS works is it starts off with a phenomenon or a problem that the students have to try and solve. And within this unit of force, the first thing students had to try and figure out is how could a bunch of students win a game of tug of war against adults. And what they had to notice was that if you are pulling on the rope, you are also pushing on the ground with your feet. So there's that opposite reaction of push and pull with force. And then they asked students using force, how can we cut a watermelon in half without using a knife? And the idea was putting all the rubber bands around the watermelon, and they get to watch it in a video explode. And so that's the mystery science aspect. And then the third challenge was they had to get this piece of cardboard to jump. And what they did was mystery science is great in that they give you the materials, they give you the directions, they tell you exactly what to do. So the kids cut these pieces of cardboard in the right way. They put the rubber band on the bottom, and it's like a spring action. So they had to hold it down with a ruler, and then on the count of 3, they all pulled their rulers away and they all jumped up. And then they had to see, how would we get it to jump higher? And the one little girl in the video, we couldn't have planned it any better, but she's using the words force and she's, using all the terminology. And this was Lauren Stuckey's 3rd grade class.
So we'll make sure you get access to that.
But it was great, and they loved it. It was fabulous. And then they had to talk about, okay, well, let's take some data. Did it go up to your shoulder? And then when you used a thicker rubber band or some other way of making it go higher, okay, now did it go past your head? And it's just really fun.
So that's kind of how we embed that 3-dimensional learning, where kids are exploring, they're testing out, they're making a conjecture, they're seeing how does it respond, making the next step, kind of working together, a lot of discourse, a lot of questions. And so it's kind of a highly engaging program. So if your kids have done mystery science, I'm sure they'll tell you all about it. And then, so obviously then that goes into middle school. And our middle school programming through the high school is currently fully under construction. So we have been very busy trying to find the perfect resource, of which is never really out there. But we have been successful in finding some resources that we find are highly aligned to our standards and engaging and hits all of those New York State science learning standards. So that's kind of where we're at right now, is under construction. So we're going to walk through kind of where we are with each content area in each part of our 612 programming. Do you want to add anything?
I was just going to say that as far as the new standards go, middle school is where a lot of the high school standards got moved to. So in addition to the middle schools having to teach in a new way, they also have new content that they've never taught before. So they're implementing that into what they've already always done.
Yes. So middle school covers earth, physical, and life science. And we kind of put this in like a timeline of where we've been and where we're at. So over the course of the next 4 years, or the last year and where we are now, we've been really focusing in on implementation, sustainability, kind of breaking it up into manageable pieces. Last year was a big year where we had to fully implement all of the New York State required investigations in grades 3, 5, and 6, 8. That was a pretty big lift. New York State put out these investigations somewhat like their performance expectations, so that it would prepare the students for that 3-dimensional piece of where they would then take that information and apply it to the 5th and 8th grade science test. And so it's heavy content. It's kind of challenging. So to roll that out, you would, anticipate if you were doing it like in a normal pace, you would want to roll it out a little bit at a time. But the way that the state released the investigations, it was kind of like, all right, here's all the investigations and we're going to give the test this year. So they're aligned to each of the 3 different sciences, the labs, the required investigations. So we had to do them all in 5th and 8th grade last year, but they're aligned to the content in 3rd, 4th, and 5th. So we phased in the rollout so that now our 5th and our 8th grade team isn't responsible for doing all of them every year. But it did take, getting that release in 1 year, it took a lot for our 5th and 8th grade team to roll that out, learn them, roll it out, and then for us to do that implementation plan. So we'll continue to phase that in, where then now every grade level will have their own responsibility for that piece that's tied to their curriculum. And you can kind of just see our ideal state will be in that 25, 26, 26, 27 school year, where we feel like our curriculum truly matches that 3-dimensional learning, that the next gen New York State science learning standards. And so as with any curriculum, there is a lot to be considered, and we want it to be engaging. We want our kids to be doing and thinking and weaving in all of those 3-dimensional themes. So we're constantly working on that through curriculum work, through our professional learning communities, our collegial circles, and we're using curriculum time for that. Yeah.
So I remember a few years back, there's been a lot of up and down on we are going to keep doing advanced science in middle school. We aren't going to keep doing advanced science in middle school. Where is that landing?
Yeah, so we are going to continue to offer advanced courses in middle school. And what we ended up doing is before jumping in, We were going to switch a sequence, and we decided that that really wasn't going to be feasible. And we felt like the way that it currently is being rolled out, the way that we're currently doing our science programming, we're going to keep it that way. But yes, we are continuing advanced coursework. Yep, earth science is offered, and there's a compacted curriculum too.
Okay, and like as a follow-up, is there any work in looking at the sequencing, or I guess something I hear a lot is students who aren't ready to be in advanced math in middle school and don't get to do that in 6th grade, so then they can't do advanced science, and that's, so is there any work in how that can be fixed so that
Yeah.
kids who are really into science, but maybe not math in 6th grade, can do
You
it?
got it. So one of the biggest pieces for us as a district, obviously, is to want to continue to open doors for kids. And so whether or not you are identified as someone that is strong in math or science early on in 5th, 6th grade, we don't want to prevent students from going into those career pathways. So we are finding on and off ramps that are just about everywhere now. So we are trying really hard to make sure that we are, if a student decides, or if we feel like the child really should be challenged, and if the family chooses the same, and however it looks, we're not going to prevent a student from pursuing those opportunities. So we've looked at ways to provide opportunities like maybe in the summer, or opportunities for just ways to strengthen their skills while they're currently in the content. However that looks, we're going to continue to provide those on and off ramps for kids, because it is very limiting if you don't get identified in that
this
first.
was relative to the work that you just recently completed with the communication
Yes.
policy committee
Yep.
has been working on, making sure that there's windows in communication. And I know that the communication that you worked on, we shared at the last cabinet meeting, and we
Yeah.
need to get it to our counselors and our lead teachers, et cetera. So just to continue to build on that.
That was
It
my
does-
next one, because of that new communication policy, just wondering how that rollout's going, and
Yeah, and I think there may be, like, in the past, I think it was way more strict about kids. If you are this, then you can't do this. There's far more flexibility in conversations and about providing opportunities for kids. So where we used to be more rigid in that line of thought, we're, as a department, both departments are definitely not trying to prohibit kids from being able to pursue advanced coursework in any situation. And so that's really kind of been a big piece there. But we also want to make sure kids are ready and supported, and that's part of that communication that we put together, is that really, anyone really should be able to try advanced coursework, and how do we help kids know that this is what's available to them? Because when they get to college, I'm sure you guys all have the same conversations with your kids. If you got to seek help sometimes. Sometimes you're going to take classes that are super hard. And if we provide that in a safe space, like in our high schools and our middle schools, they learn how to fight through some of those, rigorous courses with the supports. So yeah, so that's
awesome. Great.
It's the
changes,
ball's
thanks.
rolling, and it's gonna keep going. Yeah. So, you can read through this, but throughout the next 4 or 5 years, I say when we make it to 2028, I'm gonna throw a huge party. One of my kids will be almost done with college, and the other one will be headed in, and we've finished all of our science curriculum. Something else will come up, I'm sure, but no, our teachers are working really hard. They are so committed and dedicated to this work. We've previewed every curriculum known to man, and our middle school team just does science well. And so we've worked with new resources. There is one piece, Inner Orbit, is a really great 3-dimensional assessment tool, which really gives kids a good practice in that the assessments. I'm sure you have heard that the 5th grade and the 8th grade science assessment is quite rigorous. And so with that, obviously we have a new ELA curriculum, which is a great curriculum, Wit and Wisdom, great for kids, but also increases, that rigor. And I think our kids over time, we're building in a lot more engaging opportunities within the middle school and high school realm to get more writing and synthesis of information and that application piece. And, Andrea's done a ton of work with the literacy coaches, because the reading in the 5th and 8th grade test is pretty high level. So you can speak to,
Yeah, so one of the things that teachers are wondering is, we have to teach the science, but now we also have to teach the kids how to read the questions, analyze the data, look at 3 different diagrams. How do I answer this question? So Kristen Irwin and I, one of the literacy coaches, put together a bunch of strategies for middle school and high school level students to help those teachers teach their students and practice with them before they have to take these rigorous tests.
And using the same strategies that they're using in the elementary and middle school. So it's really kind of using the literacy for all mentality of how it's embedded in all content areas. So, I'm not going to read through the whole timeline of everything, but you learned a little bit about biology last year, storylines. That is a highly engaging curriculum as well. It's fascinating. Any of you have kids that went through it, right? Yeah, I know a few of us have the same age kids. I can tell you, Andrea too. Kids at first were like, what are we doing? Like, just tell me the science, let me do the science, and let me move on. But over time, they started to realize how that content that they're learning, they're able to apply it and make connections. And so the storylines, we are at full implementation pretty much. We're pretty close. We have not done all the required investigations. That's our goal moving into this year and next year. This year is the first release of the new Regents exam. We are not administering that. The state recommended that the schools, they gave them a 2-year grace period of being able to work through implementation of the new standards because it is a huge shift from where they were before. And they also have their own version of required investigations labs that are part of that performance expectation for each of the 3 sciences, or 4.
So if they're not taking that one, will they take some other equivalent?
Yeah, they'll just take the current biology Regents. Okay. Yeah, they'll probably be ready though, curriculum-wise, to take the new life science bio exam next school year. Their curriculum's beautifully done.
Stacey, my quick funny story is my daughter who did this class who told me, I don't know, I asked her how it was going. She's like, I'm not really sure what we're learning about, yada, yada. And then we're on a family hike and she's telling me about the ecosystem and maybe this is why this happened. I was like, oh, did you learn that in your biology class? And then, kind of realizing the thinking that she's learning about, yeah.
It's so true. It is, no, but it's so true. Like my daughter had some health stuff last year. She was sick and she was able to make connections to the immune system unit and what she was experiencing, and she really was making those connections. And I think those are the big pieces, what we're like having kids make connections to what they're learning, not just regurgitating information. So and then this is just the great positives to the storylines where their kids are constantly interacting with each other, working with data, working with readings, exploring, making hypotheses, testing them, all the pieces. And so there's just so much to it where they're making connections through real life information. And then these are the different storylines. I'm not going to show the video because the video, you saw it last year. It was a bright spot that Lindsay did on like all of our curriculum. But if you wanted to watch it again, it just goes through how all students are really responding well to our storylines units. So very exciting. So Earth and Space is under construction as well. They're next up. They've been working really hard. Andrea's, since she's the earth science guru, she's been working closely alongside that team. And they have really come to a good place where they found a resource that they really do like, that they can supplement, that's more phenomenon-based through Cognity. So right now, they've been implementing they're doing this year, they're doing a required investigation 1 or 2? Yep, 1.
Right now.
And they're continuing to review the curriculum, the Cognity curriculum. And hopefully they'll be ready for full implementation in 26, 27. But all along in the little arrows that you have below is just kind of like the ongoing work that we're continuing to do with each of these. And then we have After that, Chem is a little farther off. This New York State hasn't released all of the information, really all the guidance documents to the full rollout of Chem, but we're working on digesting the standards, seeing how does it connect to what we're currently doing. Do we see any resources out there that we like? So far, no, but we're, we're doing the best we can. So we're adding in, three-dimensional learning experiences where we are. One of the biggest things that we're working towards for our sciences, and I don't know if you know this, but secondary-wise, based on resources, they teach units in different places. So like if I'm in one class, I might be doing a specific unit, and then if I'm in another class, I'm doing another unit. And so where we're trying to do like a universally designed learning experience so that all students are working on this unit. They go to Science Assistance Center, people know what they're working on, they can support each other. It just really makes it a lot easier. And then also it allows us to know if we're monitoring what we're doing with fidelity. We know that kids are learning this at the same time, and we're able to follow how they're doing and what we're doing and being able to make those adjustments. So that's a huge shift. We're not quite there yet with Chem, but we did a lot of work this last summer and we started to do that work. So that's our big move this year is or reorganizing. We have aligned, we're doing more alignment in the units and assessments. So those are all under construction. Yes. It is a lot. Yes, and then we have physics. So just so you know, timeline-wise, bio and earth science are kind of on that same implementation timeline. However, the storylines just went up and running, and they kind of moved a lot quicker than our earth and space science. In a lot of other areas, earth and space science is interwoven into chem and physics and biology. So in other states. So where it's harder to find a resource, we still are going to teach it standalone. And obviously that's how the state is assessing it in that way. So, but we do see a lot of crossover in our themes. That's why that cross-cutting concepts, like a lot of the pieces that the kids are doing in each of the content areas are really kind of spiraling through depending on the sciences that they take. So physics and chem are on about that same timeline. And then we will reach full implementation in 27, 28, and we're going to have a big, huge curriculum party. I don't know, me either, but it's going to be great. And then lastly, just to your point, Lisa, and same with the world languages, the more opportunities that we can have for kids, which we have so many, and it's meaningful, that we provide these opportunities for our kids. So of our sciences, aside from, your honors chem and your honors bio and all that, we do have these electives. We have environmental science, anatomy and physiology of sports, physics of sport, physics of music and art, astronomy, NASA space research, which everybody loves. And we have people asking us about that. Actually, Penfield was just asking us about that. Super forensic science, super and AP bio, super and AP chem, AP physics, C. And I put next to it how many college credits those are. So, and I know we've talked, I'm sure you've talked about that equity piece too, about getting kids that opportunity to take those college credits. Some of these courses are really expensive, but we do support kids, and the teachers are, when they talk about dual enrollment or opportunities where it is SUPA and AP credit, that we provide those opportunities to reach out to guidance, ask for help, and same with parent nights. But in our communication that's going to go out to everyone, it will have how to be able to. Yep. It's a lot of money, mega money. It is, and a lot of kids can come out with a ton of credits for a lot of our coursework. Yeah.
This right here serves as our enrichment program at the secondary level too. Like you take a look at what's happening in world languages, mathematics, science here, and all the other disciplines. So it's a credit to the board's commitment to making sure
Yeah.
the kids have opportunities.
Thank you. That's a big lift, but it's so exciting.
Yeah,
Lots of
it's
planning,
fun, right?
lots of
We're having fun.
coordination, Yeah. And
Most days.
We're having fun, right, Andrew?
Most days, right, Andrea?
I'll make sure I get those links to them. We'll put,
Yes, so you can see those videos.
Yep.
Bummer.
That's fine.
Who owns it?
That'll be fun tomorrow.
It will
Yeah, it's cute. It's really cute.
Oh, sorry. He goes, I'm holding that for the Friday.
You wanna see if you can fix
I
it?
need good
Oh,
material.
yeah, we could.
Did you have any other questions about science?
Thank you so much, Andrea and
Thank
Stacy.
you.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you, and thank you all for your support too, and your advocacy too, to help with the work for the advanced coursework as well.
Thank you, team. Thanks, Tanya, for coordinating all those details and getting everybody situated.
The course guide, very exciting. So I need a motion to adjourn. Brian,
Second.
Rich, all in favor? Aye. 7-0. Okay, so if you're viewing from home, we are going to take a short break, but we'll be back at 7 p.m. for our business board meeting.